An example of water for non-point source of pollution is a body of water that is affected by wind-borne debris blowing out to the sea. Now, there are many different forms of pollution. I've listed a few on my PowerPoint, so I'd like to go over a couple of them, not all of them, just some of the ones that I think are most important. I'll first name the forms of pollution. There's air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, radioactive pollution, noise pollution, visual pollution, thermal pollution, light pollution, and land pollution. First, I'd like to go over air pollution. I'm going to first define it, which air pollution, it has many different forms. These forms can range and consist from sulfur dioxide to ozone to fine particles to carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxide. Now, carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless, non-irritating, but very poisonous gas. It is a product by incomplete combustion of fuel such as natural gas, coal, or wood. Nitrogen oxides are emitted from high temperature combustion. Sulfur dioxides are emitted from burning of coal and oil. Fine particles in soot are tiny subdivision of solid matter suspended in a gas or a liquid. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that is emitted from combustion. There are many different sources from air pollution, and I'll name a few of the sources that come from air pollution. First, we'll state the obvious, which is there are mobile sources such as aircraft and vehicles. Now, I know that I'm in my vehicle almost every day, so I know that there are a lot of vehicles out there and a lot of people that do drive. So that's just me, myself, pollute the air from something that I have to do to get to work, to get to school, to get back home. There are some other sources of air pollution, and another one is stationary sources, and this would be such as smokestacks of power plants, manufacturing facilities, and municipal waste incinerators. Then there are oil refining and industrial activity in general. There is burning of wood, fireplaces, stoves, furnaces, and incinerators, which, if you think about that, fireplaces are often used in the winter, so are furnaces, and burning of wood is often used in the winter as well. And then also stoves, which is probably used on a daily basis for most people in our world. And then we have waste deposition in landfills, which generate methane. Now, there are many different dangers of air pollution. First of all, air pollution is known to cause a deathly fog around the world. I'll give you a few examples of this. From Hong Kong to Mexico City, there has been measures in the millions when it comes to death and disease. This was stated by Dr. Alfred Munzer. He is a past president of the American Lung Association and respiratory specialist. Now, Mexico City's air has some of the worst ozone pollution in the world. It reaches unhealthy ozone levels about 98% of the time. When men were newly exposed to Mexico City's air, they would develop precancerous cell alterations in nasal and airway passages. Mexico residents are usually in the second of 3 stages of cancer. Now, if you know much about cancer, the third stage being the production of cancer. Another example is Los Angeles. It's another place that has fatal accidents in which air pollution is connected. 1 in 4 fatal accident victims aged 14 to 25 have severe lung lesions of the sort which is caused by ozone. Now, ozone is a destructive, irreversible disease in young people. Many residents of Los Angeles who are exposed to ozone had double the risk of cancer compared with residents of cleaner cities. Now I'd like to touch on the Black Triangle a little bit. This is something that was in our textbook that they really hit hard on with pollution, so this is a reason why I put this in my presentation. The Black Triangle is a region in Central Europe. Some of the worst air pollution occurred in the Black Triangle. During the communist era, the natural resources of the Black Triangle were very exploited. Now, in 1980, densities averaged more than 3 times than what the EPA requires at no more than, which is 40 micrograms per cubic meter in the course of a year. In the winter months, the Black Triangle reached nearly 200 micrograms per cubic meter. That is a big difference alone, 40 to 200. In just one generation, life expectancy had fallen to 7 years lower than that of Western Europe. The infant mortality rate was 40% higher than the norm. Respiratory infections were 5 times greater, and those who were able to moved away. Now, today, however, the air is finally clear of the pollution there used to be in the region. Now I'd like to touch up on water pollution. I realize that there isn't really any big areas of water around here, but we still do have a lake around here, and back where I live there's also a lake, and there are pollution problems that have been occurring, so it's something that I'd really like to talk about, and it's also something that was covered in one of our chapters in the book. So first I'll begin to explain what water pollution is. It is the contamination of bodies of water such as lakes, oceans, rivers, and groundwater. Water pollution is caused by human activities that can be harmful to organisms and plants, which live in the bodies of water that I had mentioned in the above paragraph. Now, there are different ways in which water pollution can be categorized. We have inorganic pollutants, which consist of mineral acids, finely divided metals, inorganic salts, trace elements, acid-mined drainage, the most dangerous being heavy metals. And then we have organic pollutants, which includes plant nutrients, sewage, pesticides, oils, oxygen-demanding waste, and synthetic organic compounds. Next, we have radioactive pollutants, which include low-level radioactive waste, radioactive fallout, liquid and gaseous waste from fuel, and more. Then we have the water pollution by heavy metals, which I had mentioned above that heavy metals is one of the worst that we can have. And then we have sediments and heat. Now I'm not going to go into detail about those two, but as I said before, we talked about heavy metals and how it was the worst pollution there is. Now this brings me to causes of water pollution. There are many different causes that can be from water pollution. This ranging from oil pollution, sewage and wastewater, industrial waste, marine dumping, atmospheric deposition, radioactive waste, global warming, underground storage, and leakage. I would like to start by explaining about oil pollutants. Oil spills make up about 12% of the oil that enters the ocean. Oceans are polluted by oil spills daily. Not only oil spills, but from routine shipping, runoffs, and dumping. Another cause of water pollution that I would like to explain is underground storage leakages. Leaks, excuse me. Underground storage leaks occur over time because the steel corrodes and then causes a leak, which in return affects surrounding soil and groundwater. So when there has been an underground storage container that has pollutants in it, it will be there over time and then start to corrode, and in return has cracks and then leaks into the ground, into the soil, and will end up affecting our drinking water. There's actually well, not now, but there was a case of this in Martinsville where they tried to get permission to have an oil dump facility there, not an oil, but hazardous pollutants in Martinsville, and they wanted to put a container underground there and actually store contaminous waste. Well, the soil was not right, the ground was not right for that, so if they would have put it there, it could have in return affected a lot of people and drove away that community, not to mention harm everyone in it. Next, I would like to talk about the GESAMP, which stands for Group Experts on the Scientific Aspects of Marine Pollution. They, as in the group of experts on the scientific aspects of marine pollution, stated that coastal pollution worldwide has grown worse over the decade of the 1980s. There were three main causes that experts pointed towards. These causes were an overload of nutrients, which was mainly nitrogen and phosphorus from untreated or partially treated sewage, agricultural runoff, and erosion. This was the most serious coastal problem that stood out. Well, those three were. Up to 35 million metric tons of nitrogen and up to 3.75 million metric tons of phosphorus that flows into coastal water every year is what human activities may be responsible for. Now, what I mean by this is ships and boats that have leaks, that get into wrecks, and also factories. The technology from our factories, they leak into waterways and contaminate our waters. You would think that with the technology that we have today, we would be able to figure something out that would be a little bit safer for our communities and our world, but we haven't yet. Next up is water pollution control. There are three main methods to controlling water pollution, and these methods are the following. Physical, which is letting the water sit for a period of time, then removing solids with a net or some sort of filter. Then there is chemical. This is by putting some chemicals together, which will pick up particles in the water, these particles being solids. This will allow them to be picked up at an easier pace and easier to collect them in the water. And then lastly, there is biological agents that can be used to clean up an area. They will attack chemicals and convert